It's that flow, no, she my flow. Yeah. It's that.
It's official. Timeline for human migration gets a rewrite. The wealth of new paleoanthropological, archaeological and genetic evidence has passed the tipping point. In a review published today in the prestigious journal Science, researchers acknowledge that the conventional timeline of human migration out of Africa can no longer be considered valid. The idea of an African homeland for our species is less than a century old, rooted in the discovery of early hominin fossils in South Africa in the 20s and championed by individuals such as Raymond Dart, who were initially dismissed and even ridiculed. Then more fossils were unearthed, particularly in Eastern Africa, and the general consensus shifted. In the span of a couple decades or so, the idea that Homo sapiens evolved in Africa went from fringe theory to mainstream thinking. That said, there is a minority in the field, particularly researchers in East Asia, who believe no single location can claim to be the cradle of humanity. Rather, they argue that archaic populations of Homo erectus evolved regionally. More on this school of thought in a bit. Once the idea of an African homeland took hold, the question became how and when did modern humans road trip their way off the continent and across the globe? Based on what fossils and artifacts they had, researchers constructed a timeline that modern humans evolved in Africa about 100,000 years ago and left the continent 50,060,000 years ago, going on their merry way in all directions across Eurasia and wiping out the Neanderthals. Oops, sorry, Neanderthals. Here's the problem. Almost as soon as this timeline became a thing, new research turned up evidence that contradicted it. Fossils with modern traits have been found from Morocco to China tens of thousands of years, even hundreds of thousands, in the case of the Morocco find before the old timeline declared it possible. Analysis of both modern and ancient DNA has revealed a whole new hominin, the Denisovans, as well as multiple episodes of interbreeding between H. sapiens, Neanderthals and Denisovans, sometimes much earlier and much further from Africa than that pesky timeline allowed. The great thing about science is supposed to be that you come up with a hypothesis and then you and other researchers try to shoot it down, and, if the hypothesis doesn't hold up, you come up with a new one based on what you learned from destroying the old one. And the scientific method generally works, as long as everyone keeps their egos in check. Unfortunately, many researchers clung to the idea of a single migration out of Africa, no earlier than 60,000 years ago, for too long. Finds such as a human presence in the Levant 100,000 years ago, for example, were dismissed as a single band of early humans that strayed too far from home and went extinct, in other words, an evolutionary dead end. Today, however, writing in Science, researchers say that no one can ignore the preponderance of evidence. It's time, at long last, to revise that tired old timeline of human migration. The timeline they call for is one of multiple migrations out of Africa beginning perhaps 120,000 years ago. While some of these early explorations certainly failed and became evolutionary dead ends, others, say the authors, survived, not only spreading across Asia but interbreeding with Denisovans and Neanderthals. Both the archaeological and genetic evidence support a large dispersal from Africa around 60,000 years ago, but it was by no means the first or the last to occur. Behold the new map of human migration, approximate dates shown in thousands of years, ca.